Hello, everybody. This is the mentoring support session 7, and this one I have called The Joy of Aptem. So hopefully it's self-explanatory and relatively short. So the idea here is to get a bit of an understanding about the Aptem system and what it's for. Have a very basic understanding of Aptem as it relates to the apprentice, because I am definitely not going through all of that, but they'll be pretty heavily involved with it and know what you have to do as a mentor in relation to this system. So, what is it? It's a system that monitors compliance with the IAT standards and funding for the course, right? Fairly basic. Apprentices upload evidence, actually, quite a bit of evidence to the system. There are 4 tripartite reviews each year, usually September, December, April, July, thereabouts. And that really is the bit of this that's most relevant to you, because you have to be involved with those and must be signed by the apprentice, the SRA, and fortunately for you, the learning and development lead in your organization. The learning and development people decided that they would take that on, so we don't actually have to get individual mentors to sign up, etc., etc., etc. Part of the reason they agreed, this is a contractual arrangement with providers, and there's financial consequences if these things are not done. That's what it actually looks like there, that little box on the left-hand side. But you are unlikely to ever have to access it. Now, I know we'd all just like to be involved in the nice things about teaching and learning and the ECF and reflection, etc., etc. But we also know that social work, you know, uh, money is involved, and monitoring, perhaps too much monitoring, is involved also. So that this is another version on that theme. So when you think about apprenticeships overall, this is the kind of public face of apprenticeships. If you went on the government website, you'd see this. You see, it's kind of heavily weighted to business, which is a bit unfortunate, because I don't consider social work to be a business, even though I know we call some people with lived experience customers. I always kind of cringe slightly at that, but maybe I'm the wrong generation. Who knows? In any event, we also know that there has been some dastardly deeds done with apprenticeship money, and sometimes some of that funding isn't going to where it should be going and isn't used in the right way. So maybe they got a point about monitoring. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. So the funding, just to be clear, right? If you've got a bill of £30 million or more, I mean, there's really complicated rules. If you really wanted to follow up on this, that bit down there, the left-hand side, will tell you all you need to know. But I doubt very much many people would be interested in that. But they pay at a rate of 0.5% of an employer's annual pay bill. So that money goes into the apprenticeship levy fund. Employers can't really access that money or use it unless they put apprenticeships together, unless they get apprentices from their local authorities in the main involved in apprenticeship courses, all sorts of apprenticeship courses, of course, not just social work. Um, there are rules about how smaller employers, the voluntary sector, third sector, and so on can get involved, but it's way too much detail for this particular presentation. So in the interest of transparency, they even have a little calculator how you can work it out. So here you can see if you have an annual pay bill of etc. etc. There's our little course there, and I put in 1, and that's how much funding comes per apprentice over the 3 years of their study, and that's how much the employer has to pay, nil. So you can see there is a benefit. Employers would argue, my guess, and it's that, well, that's my money. That's our money. We have to use it somehow. Who cares? You can argue about those things. But I just put in those slides really to give you a sense of what the landscape looks like, really. Do you know what I mean? So the apprentice and Aptem, they really do have to upload a lot of information on Aptem. Learning logs, which they have to do about every 4 weeks, which are brief notes at the end of every taught session about what they covered that day, and indeed on other sessions on self-directed learning and so forth. So they have to kind of prove that they're doing these things. There are little calculators that say how many hours they have been on. I think it's 960 or I think it's increased maybe to just over 1,000 hours on apprenticeships from this year. They have to upload assignments. They're kind of involved in tripartite reviews, but not in you don't really need to know that. I suppose what I'm saying here is the apprenticeships have a lot of input in that. And if they don't do it, they get in trouble. People chase them around the place. But we're getting a little bit better, I feel, at managing it. And I'm hoping that actually is true. I pretty much know it's true. This is really your bit. So what you get is from the SRA. They will send you a tripartite prep form. And I've just a couple of slides here about what's on it. Now, it is not rocket science, but again, it's one of these things that needs to be done at certain frequency. And it's a kind of must do. There's no kind of plan B for this. It just has to be done. I'm sure as social workers, you're quite familiar with things that just have to be done, and they don't always necessarily make a great deal of sense. But ours not to reason why. So the form looks like this. You fill in employer, that will be the name of your agency. The employer rep is you, and the rest of the details, you can see a little bit of this is pre-populated, and you'll know the apprentice name, and they will be able to tell you what their KUID is. That's their identification number for the university. So you complete the initial details. So far, so straightforward, hopefully. I've blown up this a little bit, but you can see on the left-hand side, with that lighter blue color, that's apprentice comment, and the darker blue is employer comment. What progress have you made to date? Well, the first time you do a tripartite meeting, you might be going, what do you mean? I've only just started the course. Well, progress on that case might be getting on the course. And then the employer might make some sort of comment. Usually here to be something very brief, like done very well to get this far. There was a competitive process within my agency or whatever it happens to be. They got through the interview process at Kingston. But brevity is the issue here. Do not write loads and loads and loads. You will be putting a lot of detail about learning into the mentoring agreement. This is for monitoring, so it can be short and sweet. It does not need to take up a lot of your time. Please don't let it. That's my general advice. But please always do it also. There may be areas where people are struggling. Again, that's the apprentice comment. Surprise, surprise. They're starting a new course, a bit difficult, etc. Maybe it's the place to say that. Say what it is and what you're going to do about it. The 20% off the job training, generally that'll just be a yes, because the apprentice just has to turn up in college. A certain amount of absence is inevitable, but in the main, they need to be here in scheduled sessions, and in the main, they are. Employer might comment on the 20% off the job training. That's the day a week in college. You might not have a lot to say about that, but you probably have had some conversations with your apprentice. So again, you can put in something briefly. The rest of the sections are all about support from both the university and from the employer. That might be you. It's kind of maybe slightly ironic on occasion that you might be commenting on those things. Excuse me. In the main, these are not problematic. And these are not kind of, how would I say, contentious issues. Occasionally a problem will come up, but of course, like they are learners, and that's almost inevitable. If you have a large group of learners, occasionally there are going to be problems to be sorted out, but that doesn't mean we can't progress or do something about these things. So what happens if it's not done? It's about money. Oh, look at that. There's a little thing there. Do you know what? I'm not too happy with this one. I'm going to leave and I'm going to do it again.